3, 2, 1. Okay, so we pick up with the Congress of Vienna in Unit 3. That was, of course, was led by Prince Clemens von Metternich of Austria, who wanted the Concert of Europe. This is not a singing concert, but a group of people when they get together to sort out their problems instead of fighting about them. We don't want France to become powerful again, but we want France to exist because we can't exist without them. This also starts nationalism, though, where people are proud of their country. That's that Olympic USA feeling. Where everybody thought that their country was the best. This is going to cause us problems later. But conservatism is the word of the day, even though nationalism and that other one comes into power as well. We have some theories going on that will balance out the rest of the unit, Malthus and Ricardo, with population and food. The more population we have, the food goes down. It makes sense. England is trying to keep conservatives in power, and so they go through a lot of different things. The Six Acts, which keeps... which tells who gets to vote and who doesn't. The Peterloo Massacre, when people speak out against the government. The People's Charter, which leads to Chartism, which is kind of like a union, especially this happens in Wales. Germany is having student rebellions, and so we get the Carlsbad Decree to stop any student government groups and to not allow professors to teach in a certain way. Italy is trying to unite because Italy is a whole bunch of city-states. So we have the Carbonari, starting with the Young Italy movement. This is the youth of Italy trying to come together under a nationalism idea. All of these are about nationalism. In France, we're trying to figure out what's going on in France. We have the July Monarchy because we bring back a king. And who is he? The nephew of Louis XVI, because that's really smart. And we get the Second Republic, which doesn't work. So we bring in Napoleon again, which doesn't work because he has the little bourgeoisie, and they don't like that because that's the wealthy people coming to power again. And we get the Third Republic because France is a mess. Meanwhile, we've got two writers, Marx and Engels, in 1848, writing the Communist Manifesto, which also leads then to anarchists, people who say there should be no government and we should all just be in charge of ourselves. We also get the proletariat, which is the working class people who should rise up and take over everything, and they should be in charge of things. This is hugely impactful because this is going to allow us to come to the Russian Revolution in 1917. Meanwhile, the people in the Slavic nations think that they should be their own leader. Why? Nationalism. We have the Sepoy Rebellion in dang it, somewhere with Britain. I can't remember. But it's also because of nationalism, and we have the Opium Wars in China because of nationalism, and Britain is getting too involved. India is the Sepoy Rebellion. All over Europe, we have the Contagious Diseases Act because we want to literally clean up the act. This is not only like tuberculosis, but this is also sexually transmitted diseases, and we put rules and regulations on prostitutes throughout Europe, which is embarrassing to the working class women. Meanwhile, we have John Stuart Mill and Charles Fourier coming up with the Utopian Socialists. This is kind of like communism, but not really, because this is where all people work together for the good of all people, and leading to the idea of socialism. But the Crimean War starts off a whole bunch of nationalistic movements. This wasn't a big war, but it made people realize we need to fight for our own country. And so we have the Italian unification led by Camillo Cavour, Victor Emmanuel II, who becomes the first king of a unified Italy, and Garibaldi, who worked with nationalism to bring in European or Italian independence. We also have nationalism at play in Russia, because we've got Bismarck using blood and iron and realpolitik to win his wars that he planned out on his own. The biggest one, of course, is the Franco-Prussian War, which makes a unified Germany in 1871. And he believes in Kulturkampf, which is bringing about a German nationalistic identity. Meanwhile, Britain builds the Suez Canal in Egypt because Britain is now taking over the entire world. Zemstvos are in Russia trying to get some independence, again, nationalism. But all this war still allows for peaceful things to happen, which includes the Second Industrial Revolution. This is when we get huge amounts of urbanization and people moving to the cities. We get the internal combustion engine. We get James Watt doing lots of work with all sorts of different engines. We get the laboring poor, though, where people are working, and they are still poor. But one of the great things that comes about of this is the railroads. In Britain, most of this is happening in Britain first and then moving to the continent. But in Britain, we also have some really great government that is trying to change things for the better. William Gladstone and Benjamin Disraeli, these are the two major leaders that help Queen Victoria as her prime minister. This leads to the Second Reform Act, which gives all people, all men, the right to vote. Not women yet, but all men get the right to vote. We also have the Fabian Society that is working for working class groups in England. The Paris Commune, we are trying to find a nationalistic idea in Paris where we get a commune, which is kind of like a mix between socialism and communism. It works, but it doesn't, because that's France. We also build the Eiffel Tower as a sign of France. Meanwhile, all over Europe, we have women who do not need to go to work because we have the Second Industrial Revolution. The cult of domesticity says that women should stay home and be happy raising the babies and taking care of house and being do-gooder church women, and it leads to separate spheres for men and women, that they do not work together anymore. And this is the complete and total end of the cottage system. Meanwhile, Impressionists are painting